Travis doing good, so I was able to get some sleep. Was interrupted a couple of times in the middle of the night, but that's alright. I got some sleep. It was nice. And I was able to do day one of grocery shopping. Can only do what I can carry. And so there'll be a number of trips for about a month, I guess. One a day, as I still have to unpack stuff. And in the meantime, let's do a New Testament video for you. As I had to look back to see where I left off, and it was John 2 and 4, but I had labeled it wrong as January 30th of February 5th, which was the week before. So I did pretty good to do those videos in advance. And so I only missed 1 week, which was Matthew 5 and Luke 6. And then tomorrow will be Matthew 6 and 7. So if you're new, I recommend you start from the beginning. Because this isn't going to be a simple listen for you. This is new stuff that you've not ever comprehended, because the Gospels were written by Jews, and so the interpretation of the Gospels must be the interpretation of Jews, not Christians, not Mormon Christians, because Joseph Smith was a Jew. I hear Earth, Wind, and Fire. I hear September. Awesome. I have awesome neighbors. And if you do not understand as a Mormon or former ex-Mormon what the significance of Earth, Wind, and Fire's September has to do with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, good, because it has nothing to do with that church. It has everything to do with Joseph's Church of Christ. His second vision, because I have to refer it that way because it's not Moroni visiting. This church has corrupted Joseph's writings and changed them all into Christian writings with Jesus as the Christ. Exactly what Christians did to the Jewish literature, religion, and Christ. And so, yes, there are some parallel patterns. And so as the Jews are writing their latter-day revelatory prophecies, that's what the Gospels were, so too was Joseph Smith writing the same thing after the learning of the Jews. 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2. And so we're not a Christian church, Mormons, despite Nelson enforcing the name of the church in his revised temple endowment ceremony back on the 9th, I think, wasn't it? And so that's just, I'm going to refer you to Doctrine and Covenants, section 85. The one mighty and strong. He's going to talk about the one mighty and strong. No, verse 8. The verse afterwards. But yeah, verse 7 is needing to set in order the temple. And so verse 8 is the person who's been screwing up the temple, putting his hand on the Ark of the Covenant. And thus the need for the one mighty and strong to set in order the temple. And so, yes, that's who Jesus is representing, the one mighty and strong. To simplify it for you, he's an apocalyptic character, a type and shadow symbolism of the latter-day prophesied Christ. And yes, the Jews are looking for a latter-day Christ. They just don't know who to look for. And it's kind of sad, but because of the captivity in Babylon, and then Greek, and then Roman, and then Christian, and Islam, they've been battered around. And so they've lost a lot of the knowledge when the Masoretes in 800 CE began to assemble their scripture canon. And so during the gospel period time frame of the Romans, they did not have any combined books of scripture. They were all separate parchments, papyrus scrolls, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so the 5 books of Moses were literally 5 separate books written by different authors. And so likewise with we're calling them Gospels, but they're actually apocalypses, revelations. So John, he wrote the book of Revelation, so it's technically John's Revelation. Matthew's Revelation. Mark's Revelation. Luke's Revelation. And then John, again, it's another version of John's Revelation. And then there are others, which the Great and Abominable Church won, because there's a latter-day Great and Abominable Church too. And they made up their canon, which became the New Testament. But again, they replaced the Jews. So you've got to remove all of your Christian bias, Jesus bias, out of your mind. You need to change your mind. I'm going to laugh if that's part of the lesson. The word repent, as translated or written, is incorrectly translated from the Greek. But the original Greek, when translated correctly, repent means change your mind. Ta-da! So let's get into what these are involving here as Matthew 5. So we'll combine the two together, as I've got internet service now and it's fast and awesome. And so 5, 6, 7, and Luke 6. So it's Matthew, it's on page 15. Okay, there's the last one I left off on. Matthew 5 and 6. All right, invite sharing. See, I was once on a committee of special church service missionaries, because you don't get to apply for it. They come to you asking for your help for the footnotes. So these manuals are done in the same manner. And so I know the process that they went through, and they are in great need of repair to be fixed correctly. All right, and the text is small, and I need to find the paper towels in one of these boxes so I can replace my contact lens. Being stuck in the shelter, it got scratched from the all sorts of diseases, sicknesses, poisons, illnesses, viruses, drug residues. And so, yeah, my body responded with mucus buildup in the eye to protect me and keep things from outside coming in. And that hardened overnight and then scratched my contact lens. Yay. But it's not as bad as when this part says, uh-oh, we've got a foreign influence trying to enter into our body. Quick, let's keep him from breathing. That's always fun. So I have no idea what this cough was caused by. I have no idea if it's a disease, a sickness, a virus, lack of exercise, or poisoning. I have no idea. And it could be even the cold, freezing air. My lungs can't handle that. But I'm at least free. And so when I find the box where I have my running clothes, I already know the route that I'm taking. So we'll probably need some warm air to melt the snow and ice. But all in due time. Alright, so teach the doctrine. Wouldn't that be nice? But which doctrine again? Jesus Christian doctrine? No. Jewish Christ doctrine. And I have not included this. Because Joseph Smith is talking about the one mighty and strong, he also talks about the man like Moses, which is who the Jews are looking for. And so when I say the man like Moses, I guess you guys don't understand. I probably should use the one mighty and strong more often. But in Joseph Smith history, which are the visions of Joseph Smith, not a history, again, Brigham Young pulled a Constantine on Joseph Smith and converted everything to replace Joseph Smith's Jewish stuff into Christian stuff. And so it became a literal history, and critics are going nuts with all their views that they're getting because, it's not Christian interpretation. And thus, you got to change your mind to the Jewish mindset, the learning of the Jews. Repent. Because repentance, technically, if you saw Da Vinci Code, the assassin, when he was naked in the room and he starts strapping things to hurt himself, it wasn't an S&M thing. That was repenting. Because repenting, second time, another time, and then poine, physical suffering, physical pain. Poine, repent. So it's a second physical suffering. You are now suffering when Jesus is supposed to have already done that for us. So how did Christians screw that one up? Well, Brigham Young screwed it up by making Mormons atone with tithing to pay back Jesus' atonement. And dear God, Mormons don't see it. So, let's see. It's a Sermon on the Mount. And so, yes, it's in the Book of Mormon. So, it is significant. There's a reason why. And so, it's the latter-day person. And the Sermon on the Mount is how to protect yourself under the Roman Jewish legal system. And people have lost that knowledge. And so you have many of the errors that are coming out now about, oh, you just need to turn the other cheek. Can't judge me. Oh my God. No. You see, again, turning the other cheek. Pay close attention, get a partner, preferably one you don't like, and demonstrate the scriptures so that you can see what's going on here. When someone smites you on your right cheek, so this is my right cheek, this is my right hand, it's facing the other direction. On the left side, it's easier to punch me on my left cheek, but it's talking about the right cheek. Oh no, how is he going to punch me on the right cheek? He doesn't. He has to backhand you. It's a slap. He's taunting you to fight. And so what you do is you turn the left and say, oh, you think so, huh? You're forcing him to draw first blood. And under Jewish law, he gets in trouble if he does it, goes along with it. And so that is supposed to cause him to be afraid of the legal system and go his way and leave you alone. Do you see how it's being done here? It's not telling you to get the hell beat out of you because you love them. And that'll just make them feel guilty for beating you to a living pulp or a dead pulp. And so, no, you're not supposed to let people steal from you. You're not supposed to let people murder you or your family. You're not supposed to forgive that. They need to be held accountable. And that's what the teaching is here for. Let them get held accountable for their crimes. It's a real simple thing that has really gotten twisted, just like a second physical pain. All right. And so with Matthew 7, that's in the next lesson. Okay. Because that's the fun stuff. False prophets. The Savior's light. Let's say that the Savior's disciples are to be the light of the world. The light of truth. The Doctrine and Covenants expands on that concept. That's what it's referring to. Your examples, sort of, but not really, because it's an outward appearance situation. And the outward appearance can be interpreted multiple ways, because we don't know your intentions behind your actions. And so, in this particular case, the light of truth, this is where the Book of Mormon's introduction incorrectly assigns to Joseph Smith, when it was Wilford Woodruff's journal that said it, where he was claiming to be paraphrasing from Joseph Smith in a talk that he had given, which talk I have not found in the Joseph Smith papers. Nonetheless, we have to assume, well, it needs to be referenced to Wilford Woodruff. He's making the claim, and regardless of whether it's Joseph's or not, it's the same concept that he's talking about, because it in and of itself is another precept. And so he's saying it's the most correct book on the face of the earth, and everybody puts a period there and concludes with mockery. No, there's more to the sentence, there's more to the context. And a man will draw nearer to God by abiding by its precepts than by any other book. So it's correct in the sense that it teaches true precepts more so than any other book. So there's one way to test that, isn't there? And so yes, Wilford Woodruff's claim of that is also something that needs to be tested. And I've tested it. Yes, it's good. He's good in that one precept. You then have to go to other precepts of his and run the same test. But that's the whole concept about judging, is that you have, we're jumping ahead, aren't we? That's in 7. But you need to judge them by their fruits. And so the fruits are the results of the precepts that they had, or word. And so Christians, or we'll use Mormons. Mormons who claim that the Book of Mormon is supposed to be interpreted as Jesus, and that Jesus came to the Americas, well, we can now test that precept, can't we, Mormons? Yeah, with science, archaeology, geology, anthropology, etc. and apply that to the Book of Mormon precepts under the interpretation, precept, word of literal history. And what are the results of the word as literal history from the Book of Mormon? False. It is no fruit. Not even spoiled fruit, because there are no fruit. There's nothing in the archaeological record, nothing in the geography, nothing. No Mormons, nothing. And so you have to dismiss it. You become a crazy person when you keep clinging to a belief, never even bothering to replicate it to find out if it's true, and demanding with strong emotions that everybody accept your belief as literal truth, physical, literal truth. I'm sorry, I'm not falling for it. Go peddle your wares on some other sucker. And the majority of the cases, I think, are Mormons who themselves have been suckered into that thinking process. So again, everybody with me, change your mind. That's the whole concept here. And so that's what it means to let your light shine before others. And the example would be the fruits, but they would need to know your precept from the beginning, so that they would see that your precept is correct. All right, is that clear enough? Shall we proceed? Because here's one that's false doctrine. Jesus taught a higher law. I call BS. But this is what Nelson wants. And so this is what they gave Nelson. There is no such thing as a higher law. What he's purposely messing up with is Joseph Smith section 76, where there are 3 kingdoms of glory. And then there's the part about learning other laws, higher laws than the celestial law. And that can be confusing when you have the wrong interpretation going in. And if you cling to the bias without testing it to see if it's true or false, or if you find out it's false and you refuse to believe it's false and you continue to accept it as true, you're a crazy person. Literally a crazy person. Because, let me give you another example. The LDS church. Well, they're not the true church, right, Mormons? Because Warren Jeffs doesn't have authority from Jesus. Well, his followers don't believe you. They think you're the crazy person for not believing them, that Warren Jeffs is the true prophet of the living Jesus. Now, do you see where we're going with this? And so, Tree of Life, that's the perfecting of the human. And it's a Jewish learning, Kabbalah, technically. But but yeah, you will not find higher law in Matthew 5:17 through 48. They don't even list them. You're supposed to actually go to the various verses. So we probably... Oh, no, it does have be therefore perfect 5:48, which in the Book of Mormon, you're now seeing as the one mighty and strong comes to the Mormons at Zion's temple giving them the Sermon on the Mount, he now says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father and I are." Do you see now why it's Father and I when he comes to Zion in southern Illinois on 8 April 2024? Yes, there are some things you're missing if you're brand new. These are the latter days. These are the fulfillment. And so back then, when this was written in the Roman period time, the Jewish author was prophesying of this event. And so you can see that the author of the Book of Mormon, technically authors, because Joseph Smith lost 116 pages. He didn't actually lose them. They were actually stolen by Martin Harris, and thus was the wicked man. I think we should probably go over some of these that lead up to be therefore perfect. And I should also bring up that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has screwed this up to the point where Utah Mormon women are the highest per capita in the entire universe who take depression medication. This is how screwed up the church has done to Mormons in regards to the actual doctrine of the Jews with their false interpretation and imposing it on Mormons. When you go through the temple, again, one mighty and strong, man like Moses, Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19, which Joseph Smith is referring to when he says, I'm going to, the Malachi, or messenger, Malachi in Hebrew for messenger, it's actually Nephi who comes, which is the new name that Joseph Smith prophesies in the Great and Abominable Church's temple for the actual Christ. Again, there's a lot of stuff you're missing, huh? But he says, he starts quoting Old Testament Jewish prophecies of the latter days. So Acts, yeah, that's right between Jeremiah and 2nd Psalms. That's supposed to be a clue for you. Hey, wait a minute. That's not in the Old Testament. That's in the New Testament. And that's supposed to teach you something. That's a clue. That's a little red flag Joseph is sending up. Hey, pay attention. I'm doing something tricky here. Pay attention. And so, yes, that then leads you to Deuteronomy. But he says the reason why he sent you to the New Testament for that one passage of Old Testament prophecies. And it has to do with utter destruction. Who's hearkening? Not me. Matthew 5:17. See, I bought food and I wanted to just sit and chow down, but I have to tell myself, no, don't give in, because when you experience food insecurity and then all of a sudden you have food available for you, you tend to overindulge, similar to Thanksgiving. We don't typically get that much food, only but that once a year. And so many of us tend to overindulge as a result. And so, yeah, that's what I know that I'm going through. And because I know, I am able to control my bodily appetites and have my stomach growling during this video. Because I didn't have breakfast, and so I still have to, as this video's saving, I can then get out some of the food that I got and have lunch. Alright, so again, right at the beginning, you see that the church is lying to you in the manuals, and thus Nelson is lying to you at the pulpit of conference. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. What is he referring to there? They're referring to something that has not occurred yet. The law is the Torah, the whole 5 books of Moses. That has not been assembled together into one book. However, it was by the Samaritans, called the Pentateuch. It was also assembled, well, no. We don't have the original Greek Septuagint. We have rumors, we have myths and legends about it. We don't have it. And so, yes, we have the Masoretes in 800 finally assembling the Torah with the prophets and the writings. And it's called the Tanakh, which is an acronym for the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. And so this is a bit interesting because it's referring to the law of Moses. And thus could be Exodus, it's not Genesis, or Leviticus, which is the law. I think, because Torah means teachings. Let me, Leviticus. Come on, it's got the, don't be going slow on me. Okay, Wikipedia, I don't see you putting the meaning. There we go. Google search had it. Okay, it just means of the Levites. And so it's not technically the law. And so Genesis, beginning, it's actually the book of Joseph, because that's what it's all leading down to. But they include other different persons who become the heroes. Noah, for example, is the hero of the first part up until the flood. And then you have Abraham, and then you have Isaac, and Jacob, and then Joseph. He's the concluding hero of the combined hero books, which people call the patriarchs. And so Exodus, that's the big thing. But it's not until you get to Deuteronomy, the repetition, and that could be it. That could be it. Because Matthew does refer to the prophecy of Deuteronomy. And is it? Because when Jesus confronts Lucifer, or Lucifer confronts Jesus on the mount, and Lucifer is taunting him and tempting him with Psalms, King David's writings. And Jesus responds with the Torah. And I'm thinking, it's been a long while, I think they're all from Deuteronomy, which would make sense. The law, as spoken here, could be the book of Deuteronomy. Let me fact check me. Make sure I'm correct. Deuteronomy, meaning second law. Yeah, that's it. That's what it's referring to here. It is not referring to the whole Torah, because the whole Torah was not assembled together. We have confirmed this with the Dead Sea Scrolls discoveries. The separate Torah books were separated. And so the Pentateuch of the Samaritans combines them all together. And like I said, the Septuagint, we don't have an original document. And so it's unclear as to whether that was first, before the Masoretes got together in 800, We can fact check. Oldest Septuagint. No. Oldest manuscripts of the Septuagint include... No, not manuscripts. No, don't try to trick us. See, this is... You gotta pay attention to these guys. They try to pull a fast one on you. Because they're saying that they found separate books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy during the 2nd century BCE. But they're not the Torah. They're not combined together into one. That's not until 800. The Masoretite Jews did this. So, yeah, we do not have an original Septuagint. And so the question is, when is the current one? How old is the Septuagint? How old is the current Greek Septuagint? Yeah. Okay. So it does appear that it was written from the 3rd through the 1st centuries BCE. But again, that's the manuscripts. No. No. When was it assembled together? They're not wanting to tell us. See, probably. Don't throw in probably. Just say, I don't know. Septuagint. And my Septuagint is boxed, so I can't look it up to see which version they're getting it from. But again, yeah, see, that's the myth, that there are 72 Jews, because Septuagint means 70, so 72 Jews. Oh, they're not going to tell us. And so it's likely that when the Jews did their assemblage, then somebody else said, oh, hey, why don't we take the Greek books and assemble them together? But there are Greek texts that have the Apocrypha. And so you can see that a different person assembled the Septuagint. Okay. Let's see, the oldest... Are we going to have the same issue here? The oldest... It's real tricky to spell. Codex Leningradensis is the oldest complete manuscript of the Hebrew Bible in Hebrew. Manuscripts earlier than 13th century are very rare. Yeah. Why don't I do that for the Septuagint manuscript? There we go. Papyrus Rylands 458. And that would be CE, because that's well beyond, that's 5th century BCE, if that were the case. And so it's CE. So yeah, it's after Constantine. And 350 years before the Masoretes got together. So that's the oldest manuscript of the Septuagint. 458 CE. There we go. Yeah. Why couldn't you just give me that in the first place, Google? So before that, they were separate books. Unless we find another archaeological discovery of all of them combined together. So that's what he's talking about here, is Deuteronomy. or whatever was Deuteronomy was called prior to. It's very likely that there was a book that was written exactly like Deuteronomy, but was not a repetition as referred to in the text. So that's what it's referring to. And that's what has the prophecy of the future Christ. A man like Moses that Joseph Smith refers to. And the prophets likewise are then referring to that. Jeremiah chapter 23 starting in verse 5. But yeah. So he's not here to destroy the prophecy of the man like Moses. He's here to fulfill it. Did he fulfill it? Did literal history Jesus in the Roman period time fulfill the prophecies? Matthew says yes. The reality is no. No, because if you're going to take the cross literally, which didn't happen, Romans didn't use crosses to crucify people. And the tomb and the resurrection and the ascension, he failed. The Jews were not saved. And in fact, they were slaughtered after he had ascended. The temple was destroyed, 72 CE. Masada, oh my God, what a horror story. Yeah, the Jews were slaughtered. There was no saving of the Jews according to the prophecy of Jeremiah. This is not literal history. And how dare anybody claim it is? Because of the abuse you are spewing upon the Jews who have suffered so much because of Constantine's change. Alright, but this will be fulfilled. He's saying this is a prophecy. The Deuteronomy passage is prophetic writing. That's what he says. That's what fulfilled means. It is a prophecy, and it will be fulfilled. Will be, meaning the future. Okay? It's the latter days. So he's telling us that the writing of the Jews is not a literal history. The Jews have kind of missed that. And because of Christianity. Because the Masoretes, if you didn't know about the King Follett Discourse, Joseph Smith says they made errors in their biblical Hebrew text. You're not supposed to translate Elohim in the singular, masculine singular. That is a naughty no-no. And, you're not supposed to change any jots or tittles in the Torah or the law, the Deuteronomy. And the Jews did that. Added both jots and tittles. And not only did that, but they changed the whole script from Paleo-Hebrew script into Aramaic script. What was the point of Daniel's book? Don't assimilate into Babylon. And thus, don't assimilate into the Greeks. Don't assimilate into the Romans. Don't assimilate into the Christians. Don't assimilate into Islam. So, yeah, they missed it. They need to change their mind, don't they? That's why Joseph Smith calls attention to the Jews, even though it's not intended to be the Jews in the text. You have to know the difference, because the Book of Mormon likewise is prophecy. It says so in the text. Alright. Teach them, call the great kingdoms. So yeah, the kingdom of heaven, that's the restored kingdom on earth. And you have to go to the Egyptians, language of the Egyptians. 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2. To know all about that. And again, in short, Osiris, the first great king, murdered by his brother Set, and then the other details leaving out. Horus, his son, is born in the wilderness, returns to Egypt to confront Set, his uncle, to restore the kingdom in the latter days. This is where all the prophecies come from, or from the Egyptians. They knew about it, and they knew about it for many, many thousands of years in the BCs. Okay, and so then we have the repetition of the Ten Commandments, but there's an anachronism. Saying you've heard it of old time, thou shalt not murder. It's not kill. There's a difference. I saw Mile 22 last night, yesterday. I had to watch it in sections. And he brought out to the woman about how their job kills people. And that therefore, if she wants to find Jesus in her life, she's going to have to come to grips with the fact that she's living a life where she's required to kill people. No. Murder is different than killing. And the translation corrected is murder. Because if it were kill, we'd all be doomed. Because where in section 76 is 3 degrees of glory do killers go? Murderers. Yeah, the least kingdom of glory. Telestial, right? It's terrestrial, celestial. Alright, so I wish our society would fix this, but our society is purposely altering definitions and confusing people. For example, is the United States of America supposed to be a democracy? Even if it's a little d democracy? No. So frustrating, because I hear nobody telling us that we are to be a constitutional republic. Not a socialist republic, which is communism, not a representative republic, which is fascism. We are to be a constitutional republic so that everybody can be treated equally under the law. And nobody gets that right. We do not have democracy. We do not want democracy. But the Democrats keep pushing for democracy. But what they mean is, we want the majority of the people's voice to put us in power so that we can do nothing for them. So that we force them to choose the other side of fascism. And people don't see what they're doing to us. Okay, so don't say Raqqa. Oops. I said Raqqa. Yeah, don't be concerned with that. Think of the general sense on that. But if you're... he's saying, first of all, don't murder. Because that's a bad thing. You're going to be held accountable with judgment. But he says, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause. Don't leave that part out. If you have a cause, yeah, be fully angry with him. I'm fully angry with Todd. I have cause. He gives me the cause to be angry with him. But if you do not have a cause, don't get angry. Why? Because anger leads to violence, and violence leads to murder. Because killing has a cause. Murder is without a cause. See what they're doing here? Don't be fooled with the Christian false interpretation. And so one of the 7 deadly sins for the Catholics is wrath. And it's, no, you can have wrath. And when Jesus goes on a whipping spree at the temple with the money changers of tithing, Jesus is justified. He has a cause to whip it, and whip it good. See, when you get the correct interpretation, the stories make sense. When you put in Jewish learning, scriptures of the Jews make sense. There is no confusion. There are no contradictions. There are no errors. Right, Mormons? Right? Thou fool! So, yeah. This has to do with false accusation. And you have to be accurate. Because Deuteronomy has in the law that if you falsely accuse somebody, and it's in section 9 or chapter 19, at the end of that chapter, it goes over the law regarding a false accuser, bringing somebody before the court, and how to expose them. And if they get exposed, they're supposed to suffer the punishment for the penalty of the accusation he made falsely. So if he accused somebody of murder, he then gets punished as a murderer. If he accuses somebody of rape, he gets punished as accused of rape. See how that was done? I don't know why our justice system won't assign the same judgments to false accusers. And in fact, unfortunately, people are able to make accusations, and if they are found wrong, oh, okay, I was wrong, all right. No penalty is given to them for making a false accusation. You have to be able to be rich enough to afford a lawyer to civilly sue them for a false arrest or a false court hearing, being falsely sued. If you bring a gift to the altar, remember that thou, brother, hast not again. Okay, so it's still going over the brother thing. You don't want to be making the sacrifices at the temple, according to the Leviticus, Levites, if you don't have a pure heart. If you have anger towards somebody without a cause, why are you even at the temple? Because you don't believe in a God, the Jewish God in this particular case, right? And so, yeah, you're worshiping at the temple in vain. And that's why he says you need to change your mind. Be reconciled with your brother. And so it's not agree with your adversary quickly. I'm not forcing you to agree with me as your adversary. You have to, sorry, it says, verse 25 of Matthew 5, agree with Travis quickly. I'm going to put that as the subheading in the title. That is funny. I never got around to perfection, did I? I just came back to my mind. Agree with Travis quickly. That's funny. Yeah, okay. So it looks like we're not going to be able to do the two combined, obviously. We're still in 5, aren't we? We still have to get to Luke 6. But it's very likely the similar comparable scriptures. Oh, we have looking on a woman. You're going to go blind. Don't do it. Don't look at her. We need to cover them up. But that's where it comes from. Perfection. Not only with what I told you about as latter-day prophecy, being perfect as a human being, the tree of life, perfecting of the human, Joseph Smith had set up the temple with the washings and anointings. No magic underwear. The church lies to you about this. I even saw a Mormon when I found out that the church had changed, Nelson had changed the temple ceremony again to emphasize the name Jesus. Among other things that they're not telling us. Where are you, new name Noah? Where's your upload of the brand new, since March or February 9th, 2023, temple text? Hello, I'm waiting. Where is it? Have you been banned? Or is the guy that you went through, has he been banned? Has the church now set up guards at the entrance to confiscate all recording devices? Where is it? Because his previous one with the 2019 changes, I've been able to show you the law of chastity changes because of his video. I have that in the Egyptian gold plates. It's the full history, so it's tons of weight. I have to do an abridgment still. But we've still got a year left of the latter days, and then in Zion I can work on the abridgment, right? Because everybody believes, and so there will be a Zion. You're not going to leave me as Ether was left alone in a cave to write the abridgment of the history of his people. So, do you see what I'm also doing here? I'm revealing to you the prophecies at the same time. Even though I'm using it in a jovial way, I'm revealing prophecy to you. There is that option, because Joseph Smith warned, and this year, 2023, is the bicentennial year of the day that shall burn as an oven, and the Mormons will be utterly destroyed. Unless you, all together now, change your mind. So, washings. Zadok. That's the high priest. And it says to become a priest after the order of Melchizedek. A high priest. Melchizedek, Zadok. Melech, Zadok. Melchizedek. Zadok, high priest. You then go into the anointings to become a king and a queen. Yes, women are a part of perfection too. Quit taking the depression medicine, leave the church, and be good. On your own, hearken to the precepts that are true and replicate them in your life, and you will find joy and relief from the bondage of the church. So, a king is anointed. To anoint, in Greek, is to christen. An anointed one is a Christ, in Greek. In Hebrew, it's Messiah. Ta-da! This is the learning of the Jews. Whereas the learning of Christians is there's only one Christ. Nobody else can be Christ. We aren't even worthy. Don't even think about it. So Christianity holds the people in bondage. So Nelson, demanding it's Jesus, demanding it's the Church of Jesus Christ, he's holding you in bondage, isn't he? Because he has you continually pay the atonement money to Jesus, who atoned for us, So that we didn't have to pay him back? What? Yeah. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is holding Mormons in bondage. Now pay attention to the Great and Abominable Church. In 1 Nephi, I think 13 is where it starts, and section 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and other sections as well. 103:16. Ta-da! The man like Moses frees Mormons, my people, from bondage. Joseph Smith is telling you that his church is going to be taken over by the Great and Abominable Church and changed to Christian with Jesus as the Christ. But that's requiring you to study according to the learning of the Jews. Joseph Smith prophesied of this change. So when Nelson gets up and says, Joseph said what his name of his church should be called in the latter days, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he gives a little grin at the end. Ha ha! I showed you, Travis. No, you missed the first part where he says the name of my millennial church is a different name. But pay attention. Joseph says the name shall be called in the latter days, which means Joseph didn't change it. Joseph was not the latter days. He's saying the latter days, which is a 7-year time period, 8 years technically, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, it's year 7, 24, 8 April 2024, 8 years. That's why there's 8 days of Passover from the Exodus. The latter days, man like Moses. And so you become a Christ in the temple. The church doesn't want you to become such. They say it's for when you're dead and exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, which requires polygamy. And Nelson's restoring that too. Did you pay attention to the law of chastity change, like I've been trying to warn you about? And interestingly, I did not know on the 9th that the church had made the change. I did not have access to the Salt Lake Tribune. They don't want people to have access to it. You have to know about it and pay. And so I didn't catch on when other people were doing videos about it. And yet, when you go back in my video channel or page, what was I talking about during that time? I had a cute little Mormon girl in her robes. Oh, hilarious. And I don't think people appreciate it as much as I did. But yes, I was aware through inspiration, revelation, and was letting you know about it. But I didn't know that Nelson had made the change so that I would do videos like I did when I knew in 2019. That became #1 hits. And Nelson purposely did that so that I wouldn't get #1 hits by doing more videos. But this is it, by the way. But I don't know, I doubt you'll be interested. The other lesson videos aren't as exciting for you either. So why should this be any different? Agree with Travis quickly. Alright. Okay, yeah, now it's time for looking on women. Turn to stone. Turn the stone, I turn the stone. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, Medusa. The woman who was made ugly, she had serpents in her hair. You look at her, you turn to stone. This is where all of these come from. It's just a retelling in a different story form about Latter-day prophecy. But this is not about pornography, guys. No. Wrong. Idol worship. Bad. Evil. Stay away. Change your mind. Pay attention to what it's telling you. Break it down. Do the grammatical charting that we did way back in grade school. But I say unto you, let's see, thou shalt not commit adultery. What is the definition of adultery? Married person, sex with married person. Specifically referring to a woman is adultery. Who's been married? Who's had kids? Why? This requires sex ed. See, men make women pregnant. It's not a tumor. Technically it is, under the definition of a tumor. And once a woman gives birth, she's no longer a virgin. And don't get confused with Immaculate Jesus. Girls, virgins. Unless and until you get pregnant and have the baby, you are not a woman. You're still a virgin. And that's the ancient definition or translation or original word from the Greek. Is that we have defined woman as a female. And when you impose that definition onto the Roman period Greek writing by a Jew, you're going to get confused and you're going to cause errors in society. And if you enforce it upon others, dear God. And so this is what it's telling you. Don't have sex and don't get a woman who's had children pregnant with another child. She's not yours to get pregnant. And yes, this involves women as chattel, slavery, sex slavery. But there's reasons, because the family unit requires children to pass on an inheritance, birthright and a blessing. You can't do that without a woman to get them pregnant. And so, in order to get a woman to have offspring, they made business transactions. And a dowry was involved. Understand the culture. Whether you approve of it or not, doesn't matter. Understand the culture. Don't change the culture for your bias. So this is what it's referring to. The woman belongs to another man who's had children with her. And you, therefore, are not allowed to give her more children. That's the other man's job. So in the law, Moses, the law of Moses, sets up conditions for when the man dies. You go to the brothers. And thus, Genesis, is it 48? The forbidden one that nobody likes to refer to because it's too confusing because they're putting biased interpretations in it. Tamar is traded in a business transaction of Judah's first son. He dies. She doesn't get pregnant. She's required to get pregnant. So the next brother is married to her. He doesn't want to die. And so he purposely makes it so he won't get her pregnant. He dies. And then the third son, Judah says, oh hell no, I'm not going to lose him to death. You're cursed. And so he takes him away and betrays the binding business agreement covenant. So she is going to force Judah to keep his covenant, to give her children. And he's not wanting to, and he doesn't want to give his own last son to do it, so she has to pretend to be a prostitute. Now this tells us it's during the Roman period time, if not the Greek period time. It's the Roman period time, but because prior to that, this was not the practice. And so Judah wants a prostitute, sees her, gets her pregnant. It's a temple prostitute, technically. A sacral prostitute. And so then she has the child and comes back to him and says, he's yours. And thus came the lineage of King David, and thus Jesus. But the prophecy of the latter days is to be a descendant of David, Solomon, King of Peace, etc. All that symbolism, type and shadow. So that's what is going over there. And so that's the law regarding adultery. Women belong to the man she married to give her children. And so if you're not legally and lawfully wedded to her, back off. So then he says, yeah, when you look upon a woman who's had children, back off. Don't give her children. Because the lust part, yeah, you want to give her children. Don't do it. Change your mind. Find a virgin. As crude as that sounds, that's what it's saying. Marry your own woman. Stay in your own lane. And it would be nice if the women would conform and comply. Right, women? Now remember, if your right eye offend thee, pluck it out. If you're offended, change your mind. Otherwise you'll be cast into hell. That's verse 29. Don't cut it off. Keep away from it. Stay away. All right. So yeah, here's the other confusing one because of misunderstanding, misinterpretation, mistranslation. And so, when a man puts away his wife, he needs to divorce her. Official writing of divorce according to the law. I'm starting to get weird hair day. And so he then says, all right, when you put your wife away, saving for the cause. Remember, you need to have cause to divorce your wife. If you have no cause, you can't do it. And so he says, saving for the cause of fornication. People have assumed that's sex with a virgin. Unmarried couples having sex. No. Keep it in the culture and the learning of the Jews. We just went over adultery. We went over the story of Tamar and prostitution. Guess what? It's about pornography. Because that's what it is. F and P are phonetically similar because the PH for phone, oh, is it spelled with an F? No, it's a P. pH. pH balance formula. And so this is pornication. Porn does not mean idol worship. Looking at women, it refers to the Greek words for prostitute. I don't understand why porn has to then go to prostitute. Why can't it have its own meaning? But prostitute is two Greek words put together, like Reese's peanut butter cups. So you have statute, statue. And that's where statute comes from. Writing of divorcement, a statute, written document. And this statute is often carved in stone. It's solidified. It's difficult to break. And then the prostitute part, the pros part, before, in front of. So before the statue. Now this requires an understanding of the culture of the Greeks, as they had sacral prostitutes, and the Romans are identified with the male sacral prostitutes. So in the book of one of the Kings, where Eli, it'd be in Samuel, so it'd be first Kings most likely. Samuel is with Eli, and Eli has his two sons. And the two sons have sex in the temple. And the Lord chastises Eli, the father, saying, your sons had sex in the wrong room of the temple. That's what it's referring to, is the Roman period practice of male prostitution. And it has to do with the type and shadow symbolism ritual of creation. So don't be thinking that they were perverted Caligulas. Deviant Caligulas. You need to understand the culture. Don't impose your culture on them to condemn or to justify replicating it. You're going to get it wrong. Learn their way first, so that you don't bias the record. And so women would stand outside of the temple. The temple would have statues of the deities of the temple. So the woman was standing before the statue of the temple. And thus they were called women who were before the temple, or before the statue. Prostitutes. Before the temple. Before the statue. I keep saying temple. Before the statue. The temple was also a stone. Hold on. We've got a leak. Am I off camera? Get off camera so you don't see this. And I'd have to stop the video and do another segment, but we'll just keep it going. All right. And so the only cause in this particular case is he's saying she's prostituting herself. Adultery. Now, do you understand what he's saying? So if you divorce your wife, you need a divorce. And he says, apparently you didn't need cause. But now, if you put away your wife without a cause, except for her committing adultery, prostituting herself, then you cause her to commit adultery. Now do you see? Because she needs to be married to a man in order to survive. That's the way it was in the culture. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. And so he's trying to say, not that you stay in a marriage relationship where you're getting beaten and abused. Again, don't impose our culture on their culture. They had other means for dealing with that. So is that clear now? It's simply put, when a woman has had children, she's still married, don't touch. No touchy. Okay? And if you're a woman, you've had children, you're still married, stay away from other men. Don't tempt them. Don't tease us. I know you want to feel beautiful because your husband's neglecting you. And you want to see if you still got it. Yes, you still got it. Stop it. Leave us alone. I'm a family man, and my bark is much worse than my bite. You guys do know that's a song reference? Hall & Oates? Family Man? Alright. So, don't swear. And we're going to cut it down and keep it to an hour and a half video. I don't think we need to do 6, but we'll fact check it before we go end this video. So he says, don't swear at all. What is swear? It's to make an oath. It is not saying an idolatrous, superstitious, bad word. There's no such thing as a bad word. There's no such thing as a bad letter. Abracadabra is idol worship. With superstition. And there's profane, which again, pro means before, feign, the wall of the temple. When you speak in the temple, you speak of the temple things. That's set apart, sacred, holy, from outside of the temple, which is profane. It's not a cursing, swearing, saying bad words. There's no such thing. And I could say them, but YouTube has violated the judge's decision on this matter, the Supreme Court decision on this matter, of number 3. They're choosing number 1. And they're misinterpreting that under the context of number 3. And so I have to hold my tongue. And so there's swearing, cursing, and just damn profanity. Damn is a biblical word. And so is hell. And so it's okay to say hell. It's in the Bible. But as a kid growing up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when we get to that word in the Bible, we're hesitant to say it. Because, it's a bad word. I don't want to say it. I'll replace it with heck. Oops, you just made it worse. That comes from the British word, which was the replacement for hell. And refers to the blood of Christ on the cross. And so you really need to understand your cultures and understand cursing, yeah, you curse somebody. You're not supposed to do that. And profanity, it's been altered. It simply means your regular common speech. There's nothing bad about that. God. You need to really put away idolatry from among you. Change your mind. Alright. And communication, yay, yay, nay, nay, blah, blah, blah. Resist evil, smite thee on the right cheek. See, that's not what it's saying. I already went over that one. And so, yeah, somebody compels you to go a mile. You're forced to go a mile. So tell the person who's forcing you to go a mile, hey, come with me. And let's go twice the amount. Let's go 2 miles. He's going to be less inclined to want to do so. And that's the whole point, is that you're getting the bullies away from you. Or you're holding them accountable if they go through and abuse you. And so love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. Yeah, you're not supposed to forgive them. But it's different than love. Love is not forgiveness. Forgiveness is a part of love. Love is the bigger umbrella. So bless them that curse you. And it's not saying a blessing. You know, Father, please bless them that they will not curse me anymore. That's not a blessing. To bless somebody is a physical manifestation, not words, not a feeling. And so when priesthood holders give blessings, they're actually supposed to get an idea of how the person can fix their problem, how they can be healed. Not just saying words that, oh, I bless you that you'll be healed from all your infirmities and you'll be fully restored and whole again. No. You did nothing for them. You wasted that opportunity to use your priesthood, even though it's only the priesthood of missionaries. That's all Brigham Young had. That was his priesthood. He did not have authority from Joseph to do temple stuff. That's out of his responsibility. Joseph in the Joseph Smith Papers tells us this. And yet I heard one of the members of the church use that line, that lie about Joseph, justifying Brigham Young of altering the temple. Joseph Smith chose Brigham Young to design what we now have today. No! Stop it! Stop spreading the lies. Go to the Joseph Smith Papers. Joseph Smith tells Brigham Young and his 12, you do not have authority other than to preach. That's it. That's all. They are not prophets. They are not seers. They are not revelators. They are not translators, though Brigham Young didn't want to be a translator anyway. Do not get it. Section 107 from the Joseph Smith Papers. But for some reason, it didn't get put in Section 107. Other stuff did, and you should have caught on to that part that we still have. But nonetheless, Brigham Young claims authority because of that section, because of how he manipulated it. And so, yeah, don't hate people without a cause. You need cause. But a blessing is, you know, if somebody curses you, find ways to bless their lives. You know, if you know that they like apple pies, just make them apple pie. See how they respond. Are they going to curse you? Are they going to be suspicious? Did you put something in this pie? But when they see that you gave a good gift, not a gift that you extort from them to love you, to stop cursing you, that you did it willingly and freely without any requirement of return or retaining of the gift, they will recognize it. And that's what he's telling you to do. He's not telling you to pray for them. He's telling you, well, he does say pray for them, but bless them. Do good to them. And you pray, not as an idol worshiper prays, but to seek revelation of what to do to bless them and do good to them. Because that's what a priesthood holder is supposed to do in that blessing. Get revelation for how to fix a woman's problem, regardless of whether a woman wants it to be fixed or not. And sometimes it's just cuddling with her. Hold me. All right. Yeah. And so he's telling you, if you love only them that love you back, you've already been rewarded. And so do it freely. Do it without expecting a reward. Do it without expecting something in return. I gave you that. Why can't you give me that? Why? Why do you need a quid pro quo? You don't. If you truly love someone, then you don't ask for a quid pro quo. You don't extort from them. I will not love you unless you do this for me. You don't love them. So, let's check the other one for Luke 6, if they've got it. And they don't. They don't even go to Luke 6. They have additional references below Matthew 5:16 through 18. So, yeah, that means that Luke 6 is a direct copycat. And we can verify it here by going to Luke 6. Jesus heals on the Sabbath. Oh, this is something completely different. He chooses 12 apostles. He pronounces blessings upon the obedient, woes upon the wicked. Well, the church no longer trusts Bruce R. McConkie's doctrine, do they? It was Bruce R. McConkie you put in the chapter readings. How did I know that? I told you in the beginning. I worked in the field. I know about the manuals. I know about the footnotes because I was working on the footnotes. All right. So we do need to go over this. So this could be a 2-hour tour, depending on how long it is. Corrupt fruit. Oh, man. Corrupt fruit. Yeah. The beam in the moat. Oh, they're leaving out the beam in the moat? That's a classic one that Mormons continually do. No wonder Mormons do the beam in the moat, because it's not in the lessons. They don't learn the beam in the moat. And you do know the beam in the moat, right? It's a false accusation. You falsely accuse somebody of committing some wrongdoing, and that reveals that you are doing it. You are guilty of what you are falsely accusing another person of. And it's not just that you're doing it at a level of greater magnitude than what you are accusing the other person of. You murdered my son. No, I didn't. Well, that means that you murdered lots of people, not just one son. It's hypothetical. And if people are aware of this in advance, they can be very deceptive and tricky. You got to be watchful for those kinds of people, because they can say, no, I'm not a murderer. I'm just accusing you of murder. And yeah, that's where they become evil. All right, so let's go over 6 from the beginning. All right. And it came to pass on the second Sabbath after the first. Really? So is the third Sabbath after the second? That he went through the cornfields. Again, it's the learning of the Jews. And disciples picked ears of corn, rubbing them in their hands. It's the Sabbath day. This requires an understanding of the Sabbath day as given by the Babylonians that the Jews assimilated into, and the hedge laws of the Pharisees. So first, the Sabbath day, created by Babylon, 600 BCE, plus or minus. They were a very superstitious people, idol worshippers. They, therefore, were afraid and scared of the idol number 7. And so their kings designated that the 7th day in their creation of a 7-day week calendar is to be designated as a superstitious day, a bad luck day. And so to protect people from working on the 7th day, which is a cursed day, they designated that day as a holiday, a holy day, a day off. No work. Don't do it. You're going to be cursed. You're going to be smitten down. And so thus the 7th day became the Sabbath day, because it's similar in spelling, Semitically, to the number 7. Sabbath and 7, similar. Sabbath has the T at the end. 7 has the universal symbol of the sun at the end. And so and that gets into Jesus was made for the Sabbath, is because of the sun. He's the sun, Emmanuel, the Egyptian sun god at noonday. And then the T is the Latter Days cross of the suns on 21st of August 2017 and 8 April 2024 over the United States of America. The place of the Latter Days, designated by solar eclipses. So Jesus is of the Sabbath? No. Emmanuel is of the Sabbath, the Latter-day Christ, whom Joseph Smith says is the Mormon. Now do you understand? Sabbath. That's what it was supposed to mean. But the Jews adopted the culture of the Babylonians and have lost the whole meaning of the latter days with it. And so prior to it, the Jews were under the rule of the Egyptians. And the Egyptians let you worship any day you wanted. Temples were always open. Day and night. Night and day. Oh, that's supposed to be for the millennium, when the temple is restored and open 24/7. Oh, so it's going to be restored back to the Egyptian? Yeah. King David, 18th dynasty of the Egyptians. Restored. And this is what David did. Verse 3. See? How did I know? because I have the mindset of the Jews pre-Babylon, which is Egyptian. So the Book of Mormon, learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians, pre-Babylonian captivity Jews, which are Egyptian. All right. And so, yeah, the Pharisees then were created during the Roman period time here, and were obsessed with other people obeying the law, beam and moat. And so they made hedge laws. A hedge around something. It's to protect what's inside of the hedge. And the law is in the hedge. So they create other laws, which is exactly what Matthew is doing here. Which is hilarious. With the Sermon on the Mount. Those are hedge laws he's giving them. He's a Pharisee. Jesus is the Pharisee. But that's the type of thing, But it got extreme. And so it's not just don't look upon a woman. We need to now cover up a woman so that men don't see her. There's the hedge. So a man won't commit adultery by lusting after her. And other stuff like that. Don't walk so many feet on the Sabbath because now you're violating the Sabbath. Those types of things. Ox in the mire, go with him 20 a mile. But on the Sabbath, you can't do that. Okay. So that one's now taken care of. Oh, there it is. Verse 5. That the Son of Man, that's the latter day man like Moses, the one mighty and strong, the Mormon, is Lord also of the Sabbath. And I went over with you why. And interesting, in Egyptian, the sign for the circle with this in it means foreign land. They knew. Because America is not Egypt. It's a foreign land. Hilarious. So yes, you just got exclusive information. I have not posted that or published that in any form elsewhere. I just brought that up to you. I'd known about it, but this was the first time I have publicly released that information. And you, who have endured this long, have now found out. All right. Knows their thoughts. Oh, you can read my mind. I can read your mind. No, you really can't. But you can cut open a person's brain while they're still awake and alive and touch certain places in the brain and get a response, physical response from a person. That's a bit creepy. But nonetheless, if it's being done for the purpose of healing people, I'm okay with that. But when you start getting psychologists involved or government involved, like the CIA, now you're starting to get into realms of inhumane behavior. All right. Went into the mountain to pray and continued all night in prayer to God. He went to the mountains. And so understand, whether they understand it or not, prayer is getting revelation. But he's doing this with the mountain, Zion, the mound of the Egyptians, primordial mound, Horus, latter-day man like Moses. Those are the symbolisms that are being drawn out here. And so, okay, now he's choosing 12 to be missionaries, not seers, revelators, translators, and prophets. But he is assigning one of them to be a seer. Can you guess which one? Not Simeon. Peter, whom he also named Peter. So it hasn't happened yet, but he does say he's already named him that. And it could be a redactor who put this in as a result. So just understand that. But Peter is Egyptian for seer. Mary, the mother of Jesus, the wife of Jesus, is love in Egyptian. So when Heavenly Father, at the baptism of Jesus, yells down from heaven, "Behold, my Son of Mary, in whom I am well pleased." Now, do you understand why the authors of the Gospels named his mother and wife Mary? Ta-da! And I've talked about that one before, so that's not exclusive information. Alright, and so Judas, the brother of James, oh yeah, Jacob is James. James is the Greek of the Hebrew Jacob. Jacob is the usurper. And he is the brother of Judah. So, yes, these are not literal history. They are purposely giving you Iscariot, which was also the traitor. We don't know that yet. Redactor. But yes, it could be the author who's telling the story and revealing spoiler alerts. And so you can see that they're using the same source material that the author of Genesis used. Because you're supposed to be thinking of this, the stories of Joseph and Judah and Jacob, when you read about Judas, the brother of Jacob. Judah. And so, yes, Judah is the traitor. Judah is phonetically the same as Utah. Utah in the latter days will be the great and abominable church of Jesus, the traitor. Wow, the Bible prophesied Brigham Young to be the traitor. Wow. And yes, the Christ, the one mighty and strong, the man like Moses, he's going to be in Utah at the start of the latter days. Judah. That's where the birth comes in. It's not a birth. It's the Immaculate Conception out in outer space. It's a sign in the heavens. Revelation chapter 12, 1, 2, and 5. Unless you're using the Joseph Smith translation, which is 1, 2, and 3. And Peter means seer. Did I mention that? I should have mentioned that. If I didn't mention that, that's what it means. Feel unclean spirits. Change your mind. What is it called when you depossess somebody? It's with the... I can't think of it. I should. It's the name of a horror movie. Alright, well, you know it. You're screaming at the screen. It's this. I'm going to put it in the comments. Casting out devils, but there's a word for it. I guess I can look it up, can't I? Go, oh yeah. Slow, slow, quick, quick, slow. Slow, slow, very slow, slow. See, there's the cha-cha on the walls, and that's where I get slow, slow, quick, quick, slow from. But oh, I did it right as I clicked off. I have to wait for the Gmail and the other things to pop up on the screen. Otherwise, it's going to go in a loop for eternity and then eventually say time ran out. Someone who casts out devils. Exorcist. Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me? See, I knew it was the name of a movie. Alright. Okay, false prophets. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. So did their fathers to the false prophets. That's funny. Yep. And so love your enemies, do good to them that hate you, bless them that curse you. So this is repeated. And they use sinners here, do good to sinners. I'm a sinner, do good to me. Give me a happy ending. Did I cross a line? Love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. Yeah. So yeah, there's extra information that they're not wanting you to know. Children of the highest. Highest what? It's the highest sun. Sun god at noonday, Emmanuel, from the Egyptians, of the 18th dynasty. Tawunt Unk Amun, King Tut, as you know him, or David Moses, and then they had Amenhotep, which is satisfied of Amun. Alright, here's judge not lest ye be judged. Yeah. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall not be forgiven. It has to do with what we had talked about earlier in Matthew. Must have cause. That's judging righteously. Don't pull a beam in a moat. Spake a parable. Can the blind lead the blind? 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run. They all both shall fall in the ditch. Then they turned into soup from a witch. Should I be writing this down? Am I composing a new song? The disciple is not above his master, but everyone that is perfect shall be his master. And so, yeah, it's a situation where when, from Star Wars, the original A New Hope, you have Darth Vader who confronts got Anakin at the top of my head. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they get into the battle, and Darth Vader is taunting him, saying, I was once the Padawan, now I have become the Master. And Obi-Wan Kenobi sees Luke Skywalker and then sacrifices his life. Because he could have kept on going. He chose to die. And Darth Vader cheated and struck him down when he wasn't attacking. And then was locked out because the door closed. And apparently he has not the ability to use his mind powers of the Sith Lords to rise it up. But that was developed later on in the series, wasn't it? But they made him do it as a child, younger, and learning as a... Did you know that was an error in the show? Yeah. And there's the beam in the mode again. Alright, so good fruit, bad fruit, which is corrupt fruit. For a tree, because it's continuing with the beam in the mode. For a tree bringeth not forth corrupt fruit. This is part of Matthew 7 that they're including here in Luke 6. For every tree is known by his own fruit. Is it possible that it's just Matthew 5? I'm going beyond my bounds here. No, it is Luke 6. Okay. Because it seems to mostly belong in Matthew 6 and 7 for next week, which is tomorrow. Yeah, and so this has to do with judging also. By their fruits ye shall know them, which is in Matthew 7. But for every tree is known by its own fruit. If it produces an apple, it's an apple tree. It's not a banana tree. It's not an orange tree. It's an apple tree. And so if you want to produce a certain result from a precept, we will liken the word unto a precept. A seed. Alma 28 or Alma 32, starting verse 28. You didn't know that one? I keep using it in video referencing. And so this is what you do. You get a precept, that's the seed. You have to replicate it. All fruit is identified by its seed. A seed is identified by the fruit that it produces. They produce in their likeness. They do not mutate into anything else. The theory of evolution is wrong. This is the theory of vegetation. It is well established and factual for many, many millennia. And we can even go beyond a millennia. That is the theory that scientists should be using. None of this evolution crap. And so we have the results. The results of the precept. You now know that it's a truth or it's a falsehood. You now know by their results. Ta-da! And why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? You have to hearken, because you need to replicate it. Then you can say, He's the Lord, because you have replicated what He had told you to do. You know He is true. Solid as a rock. Foundation built the house on the earth. Alright, we're done. Okay. So that's last week's lesson. That they will not teach you. They didn't teach you, did they?